Welcome to Beyond the Deck, an Agoracom production, which we go through PowerPoint presentation with CEOs to help their investors really understand the message and get everyone on the same page. With us today, happy to have him back, Jay Hutton, CEO of VSBLTY Groupe. You know who he is. He doesn't even need an introduction. But for those of you new to the story, and we know there's a lot of you, and that's why we're doing this, the company trades on the stock symbol VSBY in Canada, VSBGF for friends in the US, and in Europe on Frankfurt under 5VS. For those of you new to the story, I'm going to give you my 45-second intro. VSBLTY is the world leader in proactive digital displays. What does that mean? They take traditional static digital displays and/or cameras that we all see in stores, arenas, stadiums, all over the place now. They add in their magic touch with artificial intelligence and machine learning to transform those static displays into real-time display advertising and video security solutions, the likes of which the world has never seen. Now, a lot of companies like to talk the talk, but VSBLTY is walking the walk. And what I mean by that is more than just lip service. Here's just an example of who they're working with that great technology. First of all, the big story, a 50,000 store joint venture with AB InBev, family of companies, better known as Anheuser-Busch, to install and manage an international in-store media network of up to 50,000 Modelo Ramos stores. Those are going to go across Mexico and across Latin America by the end of 2024. The active deployment is already underway in Mexico, Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador, with 5,000 locations scheduled to be done by the end of 2021. Let me tell you about a couple of other companies. Intel and Taiwan-based Ability Enterprise, they're working together to develop intelligent cameras, including smart city applications. Johnson Controls, through their Sensormatic Solutions side, bringing a new level of insights to help retailers make better business decisions. And finally, the one that I really love, even though it may be the least well-known name, Embera, the world's #1 commercial refrigeration manufacturer. They're getting together to market and manufacture video technology on new and existing coolers and freezers. So when you walk into your grocery store, your gas station, you see all those coolers and freezers, big glass windows, those are going to go Tom Cruise video styles to have great displays. That's why I'm excited to have you on. Jay, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you, George. Remarkably comprehensive intro. Thank you.
Well, I know there's so many new people, and that's why we're doing this, right? Because we want to make sure the company is growing in so many different directions, joint ventures, partnerships, that we want to make sure everyone's on the same page. But before we get into that, what's the general state of the union? How happy are you with how things are going at VSBLTY?
I'm delighted. Allow me to comment on that complexity. You know, that's my job, to make the company's mission, direction, and its various routes to market sort of understandable to investors. And I know, because I'm the giver of that information, that it's just difficult, and I try to simplify it. But I think an indicator of the company's success is the number of large companies that are anxious to partner with us.
Of course.
I mean, this is not common. And, I don't want to laud our efforts and sort of pat ourselves in the back. But the truth is, it's taken a long time, in many cases years, to establish those relationships. And now we're at a point in time when we've got the partnerships maturing at the same time as the market is maturing. And that's a unique gift when those two things
at the same time, that intersection.
And so what's the state of the union? We're delighted by everything that's happening. I'm not a guy, and I don't run a team that kind of rests and takes advantage and relaxes. We just don't do that. In fact, I just left a 2-day strategy offsite in our Philadelphia offices on Friday and Saturday, where we're charting the 2022. And we could have gone for 5 days because there's so much going on. But my point was going to be that we have multiple things that any small company manages multiple things. You manage demand, you manage the team. We're research and development, so we're managing development right now. 18
constantly iterating.
If you don't develop, you're dead, right? The beginning of the end is when you get static. That's the beginning of the end, right? So we're not doing that. But the point is, we're not worried about demand side. And I've never been in a company
I like that.
in my life where we don't worry about the demand, because the demand is coming. It's articulating daily. In fact, part of what we have to do today that we've never done before, George, is triage opportunities. We're not going to work on your deal, Mr. Customer, until it's ready to be picked from the tree. So sorry, but there's other things. Did you ever
think, even though that's your job, Jay, you know, look, we all start off as founders to try and build something great, and we believe in it, and we have, but sometimes you ever pinch yourself and say, holy moly, it's actually happening. I'm at the point where I'm triaging some of the world's biggest opportunities because we're in such demand.
It's a competition between being happy with the state and the velocity, which I am, but also not worried, but focused on execution. Small companies fail. If they fail, it's usually failing on the execution side. Although there's a bunch that'll fail on the demand side. But we're not in that category. I'm not suggesting failure is even in our discussions, but the point is, where we focus our effort right now is ensure that we don't just execute, but we flawlessly execute. Because if we're going to be the major player that we want to be in this marketplace, we need to have flawless execution as part of our archive, as part of what we do and how people engage with us. And that's the focus of the organization right now, as opposed to worrying about marketing campaigns and demand generation and SEO and all the things that we're doing, but it's not the focus of the organization at the moment. If we just execute on that which is visible and contracted, we're in great shape.
So that's why we're doing this, because this is the double-edged sword of a cutting-edge paradigm shifting company. On the one end, you're creating a brand new market. You're literally the ones creating it, which takes you to territory that even you guys maybe didn't foresee 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 12 months ago. That's great. The flip side is you're not selling hot dogs. You're not selling baseball hats. So we need to take that a little extra time to make sure investors along the way understand certain key components. So let's have you bring up the deck.
Yeah, I will. But let me slightly modify. Sorry, George. Let me slightly modify what you said, because I don't actually view us to be creating the market. There was a time when we were creating the market, but now we've enlisted huge players. Some examples: Intel and Barra. Now recently WPP, and some strategy conversations are advancing quite nicely. They're helping us build the market. And when you get that kind of muscle behind it, and they're telling the story, which is basically the story that we wrote, that's a measure of success, I think.
That's a measure of success. That's almost pinching yourself.
Yeah.
Not believing. So while we bring up the deck, and let's help investors, because while you're bringing that up, I want to make sure we tell investors there's so many new investors who are joining the story. We can see it on social media. We can see it at Agoracom, that this is why we're all taking a look at the deck. There's going to be nothing new in this. It's more a case of make sure everyone understands where the partners fit, where the products fit. So Jay, take it away here. Let's have some fun.
Confirm you can see my screen, George?
Absolutely.
Okay. So when we speak about visibility, we speak about really two pillars of our technology, computer vision and machine learning. So we, at the end of the day, across our entire platform, the platform servicing retail and security, that platform is computer vision and artificial intelligence, leveraging machine learning. So we take video streams, whether those streams come from retail deployments or security deployments, and we interpret those screenings for meaning and insights. In retail, that the meaning and insights would apply in a whole retail set of criteria or metrics, and I'll talk about those. On the security side, there's different metrics, but we talk about ourselves as the nexus of marketing and security. So you've actually got no retail deployments on the planet that are not at least a little bit interested in security as well. So there's this overlay between the two that is really kind of a gift for us. So we talk about ourselves as being at the intersection of marketing and security. This doesn't mean that we don't independently occupy solution sets in each of the areas. But more and more as those marketplaces converge, an example might be, we all know tragically that retail has been the target of active shooter events in a couple of malls, at a Walmart in Texas. And you might think to yourself, well, that's not really an application for visibility. Well, what if we were activated for retail input or retail impact in that Walmart? And the moment we're able to do it, we can trigger, while simultaneously collecting marketing data, we can also look for shooter. So this is
because it's artificial intelligence, it's video, and you can look for it and you can act faster than a human being could.
You can teach the computer to look for things that are valuable on the marketing side: gender, age, sentiment, dwell, actually movement and proximity to signage. But you can also look for weapons or serial shoplifters or actions and behaviors that are consistent with shoplifting. So you're playing offense marketing and defense at this operational benefit at the same time. And we're not going to talk too much about this today, but we're adding to the defense side. So we're now able to speak to the operations people and the marketing people about things that are important to each of them independently. And by the way, valued by each of them independently, which means that I'm stickier. Like once my stuff goes in, it's way more sticky because it's less likely to come out because it satisfies multiple objectives.
And if I'm a potential customer of yours, George Calm Retail, what I love about that solution is you're helping me increase revenues on the one side because your software determines who's in the store. That's George, a bunch of his buddies. So you're switching the marketing to target them. You're increasing revenue, and you're helping me reduce losses on the security side. So
yes.
that's the beauty of this. It's a
yes.
double impact to my income statement.
Well, double at least. The platform is a computer vision platform. So on the offense side is, how do I take the shelf in retail and make it independently monetizable? Well, who are the likely advertisers? Who's going to buy digital impressions? You might even call them web views, even though they're not web views. That's an easy way to look at it, right? How do I take that and sell it to brands? Brands are interested in impacting you at the point of sale. Why?
Absolutely.
That's the moment of truth. That's where decisions are made. The internet has exploded revenue. If you look at the various media markets, print, where's print today? Broadcast, even broadcast is dying as we move towards appointment TV. Out of home, which is bus shelters and billboards, that's a good market and a marketplace that's been growing slightly. But if we're able to articulate a rapidly adjustable and modifiable in-store media market, it's beyond attractive, because 60 to 70% of the world's biggest brands spend most of their money on the internet. Why? There's one big reason why. It's measurable. If I can take measurability and I can make that bricks and mortar down the street from George Com as measurable as George getting on a web view and managing and navigating the internet, if I'm able to do those things, turn that store into equal capability, then I'm going to really adjust the revenue. Right now, 2 to 4% of media and revenue dollars in this world, we call it trade marketing, goes to in-store. And 60 to 70% of brand dollars go to the internet.
Before I get there. It's
right.
spent on me before I get there.
Right. What if we change that to 15, 20, 25%?
Sure.
Hundreds of billions of dollars a year.
Well, look,
Boston
George's
Consulting
in the
Group.
store, Procter & Gamble right there wants to say, hey, George, we know you're shopping for these items. Bam, instant display, instant go buy this toothpaste or this food or this consumer packaged good, whatever it is. I mean, that is the killer app right there.
And here's a mind-blowing concept. What if George is a member of Sobeys Loyalty Club? He has the card, and by way of that card, he's opted into their programs. Now, when George wanders down the aisle, and we know based upon his point of sale history that he's a Coca-Cola guy, How much will Pepsi pay to identify George in aisle and give him a one-time promote to try and convert him as a customer?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Of course they will. That's the whole game right there.
We haven't even peeled that onion yet, George, but the tech stack is there and the opportunity is significant. As we turn this marketplace in the retail marketplace into multiple and disparate retail media networks, and then we connect them together, you might launch an energy drink to 25-year-olds in the southwest area of the US. And in hours, you know the performance of that. We're plugged into POS, point of sale. We're plugged into the interactive engagement and measurement we get. It is game changing.
It makes product launch so much easier. It makes product launch, because right now the biggest problem with product launch is I want to release GeorgeCom energy drink. Where do I do it? When I do it, how do I make sure I get enough people buying it so it's a smash success? And this just changes the game entirely, because now you're saying let's launch in the Southwest US, target 18 to 30-year-old males and females or females, and boom, you know within hours how well you're doing. That's mind blowing. That's paradigm shifting, right, Jay? Are you? That's why I want to make sure I ask you for everybody.
Blowing it up.
Shifting. Are you creating a paradigm shift?
I mean, we're not doing this by ourselves. We've enlisted some fairly powerful heavyweight allies, but yes, that's exactly what we're doing. If you talk to Coca-Cola, the new product people, what they'll tell you is our biggest complaint is when we launch something we don't know for months and maybe even millions of dollars how successful it's going to be, except for we have this POS data, point of sale data, that might come in 30, 60, 90 days later. Well, what if we had the opportunity to fail fast, to use a business school term? If we failed fast, we could iterate more rapidly and find the sweet spot more successfully. And that to me this is now, I'm not talking, what I'm speaking about here isn't an advertising monetization, is a measurement monetization, which today has no place in store at all, has no presence in store at all.
It's a call to action right there. Like it's a call to immediate action right there. And if we stop the presentation right there, that's what investors should take away this last couple of minutes about why visibility is so powerful and how it's changing. It's not just running ads and better ads. It's I'm not going to go summarize it again. The last 2-3 minutes, if you need to, watch it again and watch it again. So really, guys and gals, so you really understand. Go ahead, Jay. Let's go to the next slide.
Well, I just wanted to quickly, before I move on.
Sure.
Right here, this talks about, this is the language that advertisers use. And historically, that language has been applied to the internet.
Of course.
Think about when you go deploy a campaign. If anybody who's watching this has been exposed to this, these are the metrics. These are the exact metrics, but we're applying them to store. And we're actually applying a couple more. About 5 weeks ago, I was in Chicago at an event and I met the chief digital officer. That's a real title these days of a large retail shoe company. And he told, they had both bricks and mortar and really a very fortified online presence. And he said, when we have a visitor visit our store online, we'll pick up several dozen, maybe close to 100 different metrics. And in store today, we pick up 5. So the ability to modify that, maybe level the playing field between online and offline, is what we're talking about here.
I can't wait. I'm a chocolate milk fanatic. I can't wait for Nestle every time I walk in, just put up the big bunny and say, our chocolate milk is right over there. We'll give you a special.
So we've been speaking about retail, but I emphasize this use of the word platform. We are a platform, and the platform is able to pivot in multiple directions. You've seen the company, those that have followed the company, defining ourselves into unique other verticals as well. An example might be electric vehicle charging stations. And you might reasonably say, well, wait a minute, how does visibility have anything to do with electrical vehicle charging stations? Let me tell you a very short story. 2 weeks ago, I was in Italy and I was meeting with the CEO of a large energy utility player who had deployed, by that time, 3,000 EV charging stations in Italy. And their objective is 300,000. So they're in the middle of that deployment. And what he told me was every single one of those stations is losing money because they have to subsidize the build. They have to beef up the grid. There's a bunch of things that are going on, but at the end of the day, they're losing money. But he said, we tried something. In 50 of those locations, we added large format digital display, outdoor digital display with computer vision. And says in those locations are earning money. So the difference between subsidizing EV charging and making money off of EV charging has everything to do with taking advantage of George's 15 to 30 minute dwell time at that location while he's charging his car to deliver promotion to him. Now, he may not be fully attentive all that time. It doesn't matter. The point is, he's an EV vehicle owner. He's a highly valuable, sought after consumer. It's like, what's the reason that airport signage is more expensive than bus signage? That's the reason, if you know what I mean. It's the audience, right? So we stumbled into this EV charging business. We've landed one deal and we've got 4 or 5 other significant conversations. And now we're into digital display and computer vision. We're applying retail to that application.
And I'm assuming their digital display is something very rudimentary, right? No artificial intelligence and all that, not the levels of what you're able to do. So it's more rudimentary, and they're able to turn it from a loss leader.
Well, I'm gonna turn into an ad geek for a moment. Advertising is sold based on the metric of CPM, cost per 1,000 of impressions. Web advertising is sold that way. Online, offline advertising, various forms of advertising. What they determined was that if they do basic display with no measurement, no nothing else, just basic display running a rote or a predictable reel, 10-second ad, 10-second ad, 10-second ad, 10-second ad. That's worth between $3 to $5 cost per 1,000. When you add computer vision, now you've got audience measurement, now you've got all that sort of thing. And by the way, it's an electric vehicle, and we can identify that license plate, computer vision, and that license plate is known to us because we have a history connected to it. Now we have customized advertising now, right? We're customizing that advertising for that person.
There's no place that you can't touch.
Well, we intersect so many places, right? And so the question is not about demand, it's about execution. Let's not accept something we can't do really well. And that's kind of the conversation that we had for the 2-day offsite. Let's be more circumspect. Let's be more specific on the marketplaces that we can absolutely blow up. Let's take advantage of all these force multipliers that are circling around the organization at the moment. That's what's really important. So I don't want to spend too long on the various, because it'll go for hours, but the software as a service modality, we have 3 specific modules that can be deployed independently or together. Data capture is anonymous analytics. How many men, how many women, how many 25-year-olds, how many 35-year-olds, how many happy people, how many unhappy people. That's data capture. And it's done in a privacy compliant way. I'm not picking up George's identity. Vision capture is the graphical display. I think of it as PowerPoint on steroids. It often goes together with data capture because display with measurement is the marriage. And on Vector is our module that does license plate detection, fight and fire detection, person detection, facial recognition, weapons detection. That's sort of the deeper neural network machine learning capability that we apply principally, though not exclusively, into security. We're very delighted, by the way, about, and this is a feature conversation, Vector has a single feature that is blowing up at the moment, which is weapons detection. The ability to use cameras, sometimes existing cameras, George, take them from dumb cameras and make them smart cameras. So that now those cameras don't have to have an operator looking at them 24/7 with no attention distraction at all. Now the computer and the software will do that and then alert the operator to something of interest.
And something we want to tell everyone before we hop on is that there are companies that do each of those. But as of the last interview we had, VSBLTY is the only company that puts all 3 of those into one. Because up until you guys came along, Georgecom Retail had to find one person do one, another person do the other, and another company do the other, and I had to kind of mission mash them all together, see if they could be interoperable, and all the challenges that come with it. Whereas visibility, it's all one package.
And Georgecom had the added complexity, and brands tell us this, and retailers tell us this. Oh man, there's just too many moving parts. This speaks to an ecosystem. And part of our narrative lately, especially with our partners like Intel, WPP, et cetera, is the strength of the ecosystem. In our ecosystem, WestRock, S&P component company, largest paper company or largest display, POP display company, which is mostly done in paper today, it's pivoting to digital. So that's one of our ecosystem partners. Intel, I don't need to speak too much about Intel. We all know who they are. An emerging partner with us that will fortify in greater detail going forward is WPP, the largest creative agency and advertising agency in the world. AB InBev. I mean, think of these partners that are going to help us build this ecosystem and allow us to go in with zero speed bumps when it relates to a deployment at a large retail, as an example.
And AB InBev, again, for new investors, one thing I want to make sure they are, I don't want to put words in mouth, but actions speak. They've got the right to acquire up to $13 million worth of stock in visibility from the time they made at the prices when they made the deal back then. So that just, I think, is further third-party, validation that even they think, hey, we got a real possibility of a big global winner, and we want to be part of the equity side as well. You rarely see that in the small cap world. So I want to make sure people knew that.
Equity that they pay for, that they don't get given, and equity they have to earn out based upon performance milestones. There are 5 milestones. They've only earned out 2 so far, George. So it's not a gimme. It's not it's not us paying for business. They're actually a significant partner that have to achieve revenue milestones for us to give them that opportunity.
I want to make sure people knew that.
So the 2 marketplaces that we sit astride, security, retail, both are growing at very significant compound annual growth rates. I'll speak really quickly about security, which to me is a fascinating number. I've recently learned, as we dig down into what the components of that marketplace are and the characteristics of the growth expected. Today, the U.S. marketplace, just in terms of security services, is worth about $100 billion annually. Excuse me. It'll grow to, by 23, about 187 billion. I've seen numbers as high as 200 billion. But here's the important part. 70 to 80% of that growth will be in AI.
Yeah, it's not going to be just dumb cameras.
Right. Why would you? Why would you deploy a dumb camera? When that camera, if you deploy a dumb camera, you've got the added complexity and obligation of monitoring the feed from that camera. Because if you're not monitoring it, it's only there to identify what happened after it happened. But if you're actually proactively pulling that stream, looking at that stream, whether you do it or a computer does it is irrelevant, but we take the former approach where we're providing for feeds to the computer and we're alerting an operator to something of meaning. The last and emerging marketplace here, which we aren't capturing in a lot of our dialogue at the moment, is audience analytics. This is growing and growing fast. As we deploy our technology, not only are we providing for the means with which a retailer can monetize a previously unmonetized asset, like a shelf, but we're measuring the entire experience. We do things like heat map. We'll be able to tell a retailer, most 25-year-olds spend 13.5 minutes in retail, and the places they visit are X, Y, Z, et cetera. And that's data that's never been available before. And we can break it down demographically. We can say
a heat map for in-store. That's a blowaway. Right, that's an absolute blowaway, because now you'll be able to look at, this is where the teenagers hang out mostly. This is where, this is where young women hang out. This is where old guys hang out.
And why is that important? If you're seeking to monetize physical bricks and mortar, the movement of persons, demographically speaking, is critically important, because then you know how to reach them. I'm going to skip that one really quickly. I talked about, this is the phrase I like to use, force multipliers. And you got to be patient when you're executing a strategy like that, because you're small, they're big. The dialogue can be bumpy from time to time. We bring to them the flexibility, agility, and innovation of a small company, and they bring to us reach, or what you might call in business school, rails. ways to get to the marketplace. And they get there faster because they've cultivated, in some cases, 50, 60-year relationships with the largest retailers and brands. We can't get there that fast. And even if we were to get there, I would have to give the shareholders the complexity of spending a lot of our use of proceeds on hiring salespeople.
Why reinvent the wheel? It doesn't make sense. The whole world is about specializing what you do now.
So the people we hire are subject matter experts. They're meant to manage the channel, manage the seller, optimize the seller, ensure the seller has customer success, train the people in the sales organizations. So we're really delighted about this important foundational and growing set of relationships. What's not on here is perhaps our most important partner, which is Intel. And they participate both in terms of demand generation for us, but also development. We're very tight with Intel.
But I like the way you've got this page split up. If we can go back for a second, because this is exactly why this Beyond the Deck is so important, because there's so many relationships you've got now with some of the biggest companies in the world that, it's not easy. Look, for the most dedicated shareholder, let alone new shareholders coming in, to understand, where does AB InBev and Tech Mahindra? Well, they're JV partners. Sensormatic and Barrett, they're our channel partners. Our strategic partners are here, right? And people can start to visualize that, with JV partners doing specific business on a specific project. Channel partners, like, we're going to take you into our channels. You don't have a specific, but they're going to take. And then strategic, maybe you could talk a little bit about, if you don't mind, just a little bit about strategic, because joint ventures, not difficult to understand. Channels, not. What's the importance of WestRock and WPP? Just maybe for 30 seconds.
So we use this phrase a little bit too much. I've grown to dislike it a little bit. This phrase ecosystem in our business. If you're going to deploy a large convenience store chain, there's multiple moving parts. There's creating media spend, media excitement about that retail media network. And that's the role of WPP and a Hogarth. Hogarth is a WPP owned company, independently, that's sizable themselves, which is one of the largest creative agencies in the world, if not the largest. They might even be the largest. So when you're deploying media in retail, the remarkable experiences, the kick-ass capability of that creative is really important. So we do some of that. We've had to, just as a necessary part of our existence. But if we articulate this channel properly, we create and carve out a lane for those people to occupy, right? So they get interested because this is a bona fide media channel. They're building for it in a very precise way, because it's not the internet and it's not broadcast TV and it's not print. So it's dealt with and messaged differently. That's an advantage. WestRock is largest POP manufacturer in the world. POP stands for point of purchase display. That's relevant because point of purchase display is going from paper-based to digital. And the role we have to play for them is to teach them how to incorporate digital in their selling. And so their largest customer is Coca-Cola. They do business with Hershey, Mars, Bayer. I mean, it's a laundry list of consumer packaged goods companies who all come to them with digital desires.
And that's why I want to talk about that, because they're the gatekeepers in a lot of way. They own those relationships. They determine where the tens of billions, hundreds of billions are spent. So it's so important to have them in the ecosystem, because they're going to go back to Coca-Cola and Pepsi and all the other consumer packaged good companies and say, we need to dedicate money here. Right. This is exciting new network. Let's go at it.
Two comments. One, if you're a large agency and retail media networks are being built, the initial stages of those retail media networks will have the builder of that network, in this case, us or our JV, go directly to brands to get the brands to buy presence on that network. That is a threat to advertising agencies, because usually they make that decision. So if we go to the largest CPGs, consumer packaged good companies in the world, and we get them to buy direct on the network, now we've looped out the advertising agency, and now we're a threat. Or we're an opportunity to do something more strategic with them. They don't want to be disintermediated, George,
Absolutely.
to use an old business school world. They don't want to be moved out of that because that's a very, very lucrative part of the business. So it is the WPP teams or the Publicis teams or the various large agency teams that make the decision with Coca-Cola about where to spend advertising. Is it print? Is it broadcast? And if we're not in the conversation, we're not going to be considered a relevant channel.
Yeah, you want them as a partner, you don't want them as
of
competition. That's for
right,
sure.
Right.
All right. So that's why I want to talk about strategic so that people understand why having those names on the far right column is so important.
It's this side of our business, which is not to diminish AB InBev, because we all know that's a meteoric deal for us, but this side of our business is where the greatest value will be created in the shortest amount of time. Because it's force multipliers. It's teaching two people to do the work of one, just to make it really simple. AB InBev LATAM. I won't spend a whole lot of time on this. I think everybody that's followed the company, even moderately, knows this deal.
This is the pinnacle.
Down on the right side are the performance metrics that I referred to earlier. As I said, they've only earned out 2. Actually, they've earned out 3. They've just recently earned milestone 3, 1,500 locations.
All right, that's great news for everybody at home.
Yeah. So real progress with this. Really delighted. Inevitably we're facing unique challenges, but we're getting the job done with our partners. The partners include Tech Mahindra, Intel, AB InBev, really large partners that are just as motivated as we are to build this retail media network. Intel, I've spoken about, but I'll move a little bit more quickly. We've got multiple strategic alliances with them. We've got a co-development relationship with them.
And why is that, by the way? Why is Intel taking such an interest? Just if you could touch on that a little bit. Why is Intel taking such an interest in visibility?
I will for a quick moment. If you look at the artificial intelligence chip competitive landscape, you've got 2 major players, NVIDIA and Intel. And NVIDIA is ahead of Intel. And really no one would argue.
No one's going to argue that. We know that NVIDIA's kind of moved ahead.
But Intel, it's like don't ever count out Microsoft, right? How many of us over the last 40 years, I will count myself among them, that have counted out Microsoft? They missed important inflections in the market. They missed the internet, for crying out loud. So, and a lot of people don't remember that, but I remember that.
Yeah, I did. And then they caught up.
Yes, well, of course, because you've got this incredible landscape of really intelligent people and a lot of money, and a business that continues to throw off money year over year over year. That's like Intel. Intel just announced 2 $40 billion combined cost fabrication in Arizona, principally to catch up. So I don't count Intel out, but the answer to your question is Intel made a strategic decision to align with us. And though we have places where we've had opportunities to go into the NVIDIA world, and I'm not dismissing that as a possibility, it may be necessary for us to do it, our principal platform is Intel Silicon. We do things on Intel Silicon because we're optimized to Intel Silicon. We've got a specific set of instructions that only Intel Silicon can interpret. But we've got this, we've got an ability, we're not committed forever to Intel, but because we have this commitment to them, and it's really the bulk of our business, they throw money at us, they throw time at us, they throw resources at us, and they throw customers
Unbelievable. That's a dream partner for any small cap, in any small cap company. That's a dream scenario, Jay. Customers, money, new opportunities. That's unbelievable.
And while I have been delighted by the participation of Intel in our marketing message and our demand side, it's actually going up a level. There are initiatives now occurring which consume a ton of our small company's time, but it's a decent ROI, right? You would do that because it's building and fortifying the foundation of the company. So I'm not trying to be cryptic, but our relationship with Intel is going up a level very soon here. So
nothing cryptic about that.
well, we're delighted about it. I mean, and it's not. I mean, they're not taking equity. I don't want their money at the moment. Don't need their money. But more valuable to us is the things they can do to help us drive, land, and deliver our big customers. My focus is on the delivery because I'm not struggling with the other two things right now.
Unbelievable.
I'll go through team, if you wish me to, but
no, I think, you know what, I think we can end it there unless there's another slide, because I think the most important part, people can look up the team. You know, everyone knows the chart they talk about on Agoracom and the Agoracom Twitter all the time. So I think what was important was for us to go through people understanding the business from the technology right down to our partners. And I think we hit it out of the park here today, Jay.
Okay.
So let's end it there, right? Last words from you to everybody now that they've seen this. You know, what's the last takeaway? So you don't need to re-summarize because you've done an amazing job. What's the last thing you want everyone to take away from all this? Because this has been a fantastic Beyond the Deck.
I'll get people email me directly and say, you know, is the party over? You know, you've had this 3,200% increase over the last, whatever it is, 17 or 18 months. And, you know, am I too late? And, you know, my opinion is, even though I'm not in the business of giving stock advice, my opinion is, honestly, I'm delighted by the movement of the stock. I'm happy about it. It feels inspiring to me. It builds confidence, but we're not even close to done. You know, we don't feel that we've scratched the surface of our value as an organization. So I believe, and this is old school thinking, I appreciate that, but I'm an old school guy. So I believe that execution, the stock will take care of itself. We don't need cash. We're cashed up. We're cashed up to our projection of profitability, and, you know, we have got wiggle room. We've got projects inflecting now, generating significant revenue. We haven't released our Q3 yet, but it's a record Q3. And already our Q4 is in records territory as well. So we are the dictionary definition of inflection at the moment. And I'm delighted by that, but we're not even close to finished, I guess, is my takeaway.
And I could have added, but I'm not. I'm going to finish right there because it couldn't be said better. Hey, Jay, thanks so much. We know how busy you are, and everybody and the few people who might not have known it, trust me, guys, I'm founder of Agoracom, and I'm busy dealing with small cap companies at the level where Jay's at, dealing with all the channel partners, JV partners, and technology partners that we just saw. I can't even imagine. So for you to take out, you know, essentially 42 minutes of your time so that you could bring investors closer to the company in terms of knowledge, Jay, hats off to you. Incredibly and hugely appreciated. And I think it's I can make the prediction from now that investors are just going to be raving about this. And can't wait to have you back, my friend.
Exciting time. Thank you, George.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a fantastic day. See you next time. Hey guys, the video's over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and even leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our YouTube channel so you never miss another great Agoracom small cap video.